Hi, welcome to another tutorial. Today we are going to show how to make a honeycomb. So the different steps, which are really quite interesting with new features. We have incorporated the features that are really useful in a lot of material systems like the flat fill, which will be quite nice to do selections into groups, and that's what we're gonna do. So we will start with an hexagon. We will round it up, and then we will create the hexagon honeycomb, and we will treat it to look like this. Okay, so let me make it quite big. What do we do? Well, we start with an hexagon that you can select, and it is a scale which is useful later on. But what we wanted to do is to get the rounded besides these corners. We wanted to round it up. One of the ways to do it is to use a Gaussian blur and then an histogram scan. There's more ways, like let me think. I think it was called in filters like binary smooth. Binary smooth is another technique which is really similar. You can see that we have gotten the um, rounded corners, but you probably will need the other steps, like maybe a Gaussian blur or a bilateral blur. Let's try with a bilateral blur. But the result is not going to be so nice. So this is going to create some artifacts. Sometimes you want to do this, but in this case the Gaussian blur is just good enough and creates faster and more performance way a really clean solution. So that's what we do. Now, then we use the image stapler. There are a lot of more, but this one we adjusted it to be odd and not a number to be tailable. In this case, it's even number, and in the X case, yes, it doesn't matter. But when you don't use the scale, so in this case it's 0.86. If you use 1 and 1, this doesn't look good. You have to use the scale to adjust it. Well, this is the scaler, so the dialer, which can be adjusted in many different ways. Well, I could have probably have adjusted a little bit the randomness to get a more organic feel. Anyway, it's too late for that now. What I like to do is to apply a warp. So I created this organic feeling with the warp to Berlin noise. The warp, what it does is that manipulates the shape a little bit to make it using the Berlin noise, the input noise, to get this organic feeling, okay? And then this output is not needed. The flat fill. What the flat fill is like a filter that you use combined with another node. So the flat fill, what it detects is detects the plane shapes, although it has some adjustments like the threshold, and then you apply another filter. We have in this application 3 filters. These are called FF2 something. Sometimes it's to gradient. In this case, it's to random grayscale. You can create one to random color, which creates a random color. Or you could create one to gradient, which creates two gradient. This is just a lot for those who like to adjust the some sculpting they have done with random cuts, okay? But it's used for a lot more. In this case, I think there's a bug here, and we have to fix. So next tutorial, I will fix that. So in this case, I also use a delete eroid because then I'm going to use a non-uniform blur. The non-uniform blur takes this one and uses this mask. That's why I deleted a little bit. So I made those bigger to then apply the uniform blur. The uniform blur, what it does is take the grayscales and detects how much blur they have to apply based on this mask or this gradient. I also wanted to know what hexagons were going to be waxed. That's why I apply a chroma key. I could have used other methods. With the chroma key, you can put a color and the septan cutoff, and then I use the threshold, and then that's how I do it. And then yes, I use the binary smooth, which doesn't work very well, but anyway, I did 3 steps. I could have probably uh, ignored this one. If I put this one, I get something similar. But the binary smooth is ugly algorithm to do um, smoothing, which creates a lot of artifacts. But those artifacts is probably what you want a lot of the time because it gives a more organic way forms. If I used just this without the banner smooth, you see it's not the same. But if I use the banner smooth, it's a lot better. So the banner smooth, really useful for these organic fillings. And then I used a blend with the silhouettes of the other honeycomb convex sounds to get a full wax. Okay, mask. Then there are a lot of steps. I created some Gaussian blue for Gaussian noise to do the blend with the wax. Then I use a colorize with which we call tint, and this tint goes finally into the mask blend. But before to do that, we have to do a lot more steps. This is probably before the height map, and this blur is to make softer the normal map. This hue saturation comes from this colorize from the blend, which uses an invert of this one because we want to get what's in the other. So this is the wax mask. With the inversion, we get the other mask, the honeycombs, which are below. And we blend the blur from the steps before, from here. This one is for the ambient occlusion filter, and that's pretty much it. We get this result. I have a lot of tricks, like we're going to colorize something. I don't do it looking and creating this palette because I'm really lazy for that. So what I do is control right click, and we are in tools. We have color gradients. I click on that and I can look for, in this case, honey. and I apply honey. That's how I do it. And then I saturize the color to get a really cartoon looking result. The same for the wax in this tint. I look here and I make sure that it's in the database and I apply wax. If I wanted a zombie like um, honeycomb, I could have looks for maybe the undead or something, and I would get a totally different result. So the color is really important, and I don't do it randomly. So I have a database, and most artists have a database to achieve good results because everybody's looking for a certain tone to identify honeycomb with honey or with wax, and you have to be really careful to select those colors properly. You can play with the natural feeling, if it's organic, if it's delayed, if it's distorted in different ways, but you have to be really careful about the colors, okay? So you can see in a sphere, probably a cylinder is the best way. So you can see it here, the honeycomb, and even in a plane. The plane is probably the best way without distortion from the shape, and this is how you would see probably a honeycomb. Okay. Let me check. I had to do a lot of tricks, but one of those were uh, delayed erode. In this, I did an erode because here, let me select the sphere. If I didn't apply the erode, the wax was getting into the cells. So I adjust this with an erode to get the wax just right in the border. And that's it. So that was everything. I hope that you didn't miss the flat fill, which is a really important part, especially in Substance Painter. A nice way to get variety, which is really important in organic designs. Okay, so you have a flat fill, and then you apply different filters to get random values, random gradients, and random colors, and with that you can play. See you around, and thank you very much for your attention.